has been written that we are ascending, but we're leather standing.
Oof. It has been written that we are ascending. Unite in the 144 tribe. So fun. I'm loving these new color vibes, feeling like a unicorn flying through the crystalline sky of the Aurora plan mission. Yeah. Thank you for being here. I'm called Phinix Returns online. My name's Alicia. Living in the no time, no space, time traveling from the future, messenger of light, guardian of the galaxy. But I don't really hold on to any one identity or title or archetype. We certainly are starting to recognize, though, that I feel like more people are curious about the idea of simulations, holograms, the idea that we're playing a game here. And I think that's our only way out of what's been happening on our planet, is to start to take things a little more lightly and to understand the power that we have to navigate ourselves out of any situation. Again, thank you so much, baby. You can navigate yourself out of any situation. You can navigate yourself out of a planetary failure, planetary destruction, a fall of a civilization. You can navigate yourself out of anything. And so we are the navigators from the stars, and starting to come out of the closet and talk a little more about principles around quantum mechanics and timeline creation, how you create your reality, how you work with the toroidal fields of energy, how you work with the 0 points, how you work with your genetic codes, how you understand genes and genetics and how things work. And so, yeah, this is a time of great truth and a time of empowerment in this awakening of being radically responsible for ourselves, our stories, the games that we're playing, the characters we've chosen for ourselves, the characters we've chosen around us. It's that deep. This is the invitation where you go from how and why is all of this happening to being the architect, the observer and the witness, and the observer and the witness, and then architecting. And there's a level of inadequacy that has to be moved through in order to perceive of the idea of the concept that we have the power to create our reality, that we are working with material form, but before we are material, we are energetic. We are what you might call spiritual, and that word's been overused in so many ways and even abused in so many ways. But the idea of this physical form and this physical earth and everything going on within it and outside on it is a reflection of frequency fields. And so when we start to understand that, we start to go more on the inner planes into the frequency fields and recalibrate and recreate new realities. And that's why there's so much coming out about the idea of like free energy. What is free energy? Plasma, ether, morphogenetic fields, light bodies, rainbow light bodies, solar consciousness. These are just a few like terminologies that are coming through my frequency field right now as we're speaking, and it feels very crystalline. I live and represent a very crystalline reality, very much like the colors and the crystals on this screen. And so my responsibility as a way shower, I guess you could say, a grid worker, Again, I don't get too caught up in names and titles, but someone that is here, that is incarnated on planet Earth to assist with the planetary ascension, to assist with the rising in consciousness, to assist with navigating conscious evolution, frontiers of consciousness. We're understanding very clear the responsibility of our individual and collective group roles in coming together and coming into embodiment of what I would call the Christos frequencies. You could say law of one frequencies, which I define as service to others. Moving from a service to self frequency to a service to others frequency, which always benefits yourself as well. And so for me, what I'm feeling right now is just the invitation for each and every one of us to move into these higher planes of existence in order to serve the greater vision, the divine plan. And that's why we do this Unite the 144 tribe. I always say that the 144, the 144,000 aren't the chosen ones, but the ones who choose. And it's not limited in number. That's just the fractal tipping point. That's the real solar event. When that amount of beings can tip a fractal, can be the tipping point of holding the frequencies of all is one, of holding the frequencies of the new time. And that's what we're getting to right now. That's where we're at, holding that field. Thank you, babe. Yeah, Eduardo's hooking me up with the tortilla.
How about the thing?
Yeah, so good. Ginger tea. We've been eating mostly raw and clean. Every once in a while we'll have a little rice and tortillas. Still have a little cooked stuff. But definitely lightening up. Okay, so I hope you don't mind that I'm eating on here. So right now in the tropical transits, we're covering Gene Key 4, which is from the shadow of intolerance to the gift of understanding to the city of forgiveness. So Gene Key 4, the city of forgiveness. And it's one of the 7 sacred seals. It's sacred seal number 5, which has to do with the throat chakra, which has to do with the Buddhic body. You could say rainbow light body. I always like to connect it to Egypt for some reason, because originally Egypt was connected to the throat chakra. But we're moving into collapsing all the fields of chakras and basically the whole planet being the whole earthship. So it used to be compartmentalized, the root chakra is Shasta, the crown's over here. Maybe you could say that's so, and you can go to these places and get activations and things like that. But I like to encourage the concept of the 0 point anywhere that I can, which is really the ability to be able to collapse the field into the 0, to really start to practice working with quantum mechanics, where you can observe and witness possibilities and probabilities and collapse all fields. And then instead of getting too attached to one particular outcome or timeline, that you surrender to the highest timeline, or what you might call the greatest good for all. That's pretty much the way that I work with the 0 point mechanics every single day. It's you might meet and greet and come into contact with particular energies, and there's like this level of purification, confrontation, communication, or collaboration or harmony or whatever it is really just the processing grounds for catapulting us into the greatest good for all. And the more beings that we have on the earth committed to that role, the more we start to see collective change. And so that's really where we're at, is learning how to be a player in this game. And so many of us have been on the front lines ushering through this great change, living it, feeling it, being it, creating new fields of energy. And now what I'm sensing is there's a time like to come out of the cave and start to talk a little more about emotional intelligence and energetic fields and timeline creation and working with quantum physics, quantum mechanics, plasma, ether, free energy, versus it being like a selling type of some kind of idea that's coming in the future when it's actually nothing to sell. It's something to be, 0 point energy. And when we're living in the lower astral realm, it's a little more of the victimizer energy. And it's also the lower self, lower nature desire, the pain and trauma dimensions. It's hard to move into the new timeline creation of heaven on earth, peace on earth. And so we're looking to collapse fields of villains and victimizers into new creations. And I feel that quantum leap is just coming through of what are we willing to let go of in order to create these new timelines? The main thing, though, is the invitation to embody or come into the Buddhic body. And so the gene keys on the highest level for me is the prophetic code to assist humanity into ushering this great change. And gene key 4 has to do with forgiveness. I'm almost done eating this tortilla. Breaking bread. So we're talking about gate 4. Gene key 4. If you don't know your chart, you can pull it up for free on genekeys.com. I'm going to read you the I Ching version of the 4. After I finish eating this final bite. Moving up an octave, Elysium, I see you on there. Okay. Gene key 4, youthful folly. Above mountain, below water. Water below mountain. The inexperienced person seeks a teacher. A spring emerges at the foot of the mountain. The landscape will ultimately determine how the water will flow. At present, it is directionless. It rushes over the ground, seeking places where it can gather and deepen. Thus, the inexperienced person seeks an experienced teacher. The teacher does not seek the student, who must approach with humility. So that's gate 4 in the I Ching. It is a level of like humbling the self and coming into being able to be the student. Sometimes when we come into teacher or leader positions, it can be, it's humbling to come down into the learning position. We're always here to learn. We're always here to grow. We're always here to expand. That's the big invitation for each and every one of us. Sometimes we get caught up in like, we might know so much, or we might carry a lot of intellect, or we've had a lot of experience, but there's always new opportunities for learning and expanding. And remaining in that humble spirit is really what allows us to usher in this new time moving forward. Which for me moves beyond the idea of the need for forgiveness in the traditional way that we've been taught what forgiveness means. To me, forgiveness has to do with like a cellular understanding. It's like deep down in the bones, you can feel it, that you don't have a fire or a poison in your body towards anyone. That's real freedom to me. That is truly real freedom to me, when you don't have an energetic charge within yourself when you think of anyone. And that can be a really good gateway for you about like who it is that's still pending in your life, so to speak. This is the healing process. And, I know there's like heal it, to feel it, hug yourself, feel the emotions, be with it, all of that. But I'm also talking about working in the energy field and just kind of reconfiguring the way that you look at things. Dr. Wayne Dyer would always say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so when you rewrite the code from victim to architect, you start to see the bigger picture and ask yourself like, oh, why did I bring this to me? Why did I manifest that? Why did I create that? What am I showing myself? What am I learning here? What am I expanding? What am I confronting? What am I rewriting? What am I transfiguring? Just getting behind the driver's seat, so to speak, and being able to see the bigger picture. With that being said, I don't take lightly that a lot of people have had some pretty heavy shit go on in their lives. The more that I've been in this field, after I was initiated on the path after a near-death experience, I couldn't believe how many people were coming to me and sharing the depth and level of pain they've gone through in their lives. A lot around child sex trauma, in the family or in religion. A lot that asked for help from a mother or woman figure that wouldn't or couldn't help them. Where the child wasn't taken seriously and nothing was done about it. Yeah, we've really been resolving this as a collective wound in the field for a long period of time now. And I have seen people go through some challenging situations in their life and been able to forgive, and to be able to see the bigger picture, to have compassion and understanding for for the perpetrator, and that's a big step. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'd like it to be. I'd like us to be able to just move through, what we need to move through. I will say for me, working with people in the responsible use of the medicine field, I've had people really view and witness and have things come up where they could see the pain of something, see the truth of something, and be able to truly unwind that path of holding on tight, repressing, holding against, being able to open the heart and forgive. Do we need to do medicine to do that? I mean, maybe we don't. But I think the world will be a whole lot lighter as we work through the idea of forgiving anyone that needs to be forgiven. And sometimes it's about forgiving yourself because you've done some fucked up shit. Like, it's not just about forgiving someone else. And so I guess that's the total resolve of the idea of forgiveness, is to forgive all others and forgive yourself. But it's not just a mental decision. It's actually an energetic gate that you go through, where you let go of that energetic debt, like forgive us our trespassers as we forgive those who trespass against us, or, like that kind of thing. It's like, there's a cellular understanding. There's no going back. There's no need to feel the pain again. You got it. This is the justice, actually, is being able to rise above it, to move up into a new octave. And because of the way that the idea of healing trauma and just healers and healing on the planet has gone, it's helped to a point, but then there's that next, there's that next final level of no longer perpetuating the suffering and the trauma. This is the real justice that we're being called into, to move into, to remember that it is available to us to return to that eternal Christic star architecture. Yeah, this is the leap. This is the leap to the Buddhic plane. I mean, this is a mystery school teaching type of thing, but I'm like, let's not keep anything a mystery anymore. This is not elite knowledge. This should be available to anyone that is ready for it. And I sure have learned that not everyone is so curious or on the path of seeking that they know what a Buddhic body is or believe they're on a path to understand the operating of working with your light body. But I'm here to talk to those ones, because that's how you hold frequency on a planet, operating from your light body. Your light body is beyond trauma. Your light body is, it's frequency. You know, it is, morphogenetic field keeps coming up over and over again, but it's also the void. I saw, thank you. Oh, what is the red in there? Oh, Mora. Yeah, I switched off drinking coffee a little while ago, maybe about 6 weeks already. Holy shit, that's pretty good. I just like drinking hot stuff. Anyways, now we use our coffee pot to just make teas in it with whatever we have. Like, we have a lot of free citrus in this area that grows, and non-poison, non-GMO. And yeah, I'll just throw it in the glass container of the coffee pot and have that hot water drip, and put some ginger. Fresh ginger is always good medicine. It's like we're on a constant detox of just flowing with herbal teas and fruits, and every once in a while a tortilla. And yeah, so what I guess I'm bringing to you is a humble heart, but also acknowledging the force and the wisdom that I'm carrying, kind of sitting outside of the field, so to speak, bringing in these transmissions of the new time. What does it look like? What does it feel like? When will it be? As soon as we start to translate these fields outward and start to communicate what that can look and feel like, we can open up our minds to participate in new realities, new configurations, new imaginations, you know, beyond the idea of trading hours for dollars and working hard for the things that you need and just barely making it. And like, yeah, just like re-flipping the script on all levels. We have the power in the game when we start to remember how to code the system, how to recode the system, how to really play with this so-called matrix. It's not just about talking shit about it. It's like building the new and building the pathways, and then living to tell. And so, you know, this gene key is connected, gene key 4, sacred seal number 5, is connected to the physiology of the neocortex, which is something animals don't have. And you could say that it is a bit like a circuitry that can be programmed by technology, for better or for worse. You know, and there is a whole lot of mind control going on. So coming into sovereignty and kind of being the manning your station, so to speak, is one of the things that we're called into. And one of the ways that you make sure you're doing that is you're not giving your power or your energy away. And so when I think of forgiveness, sometimes it feels like that is giving your power away to something or someone that may not even exist in your reality anymore, may just be a ghost. It's just a memory stamped and frozen in time. So we're collapsing the fields of old memories, actually, in order to open up new fields. And Gene Key 14's been on the mind a lot, which actually is connected to the morphogenetic field and bounteousness. And it actually talks about like a complete erasing of personal memory from your DNA. That can sound a little scary. But actually, we've been reprogrammed and reprogrammed so many times in our mental space without even knowing it. Like, and I just saw a video the other day. Actually, Eduardo had it on, and it was talking about how like they can utilize technology to make you think you had a memory about going to Disney World, but you never even really went. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty deep if you think about it. That's been happening the whole time. When you know about all these projects like MK Ultra, Project Bluebird, Project Artichoke, Project Bluebeam, Project blah, 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 blah. It's like there's so many different projects that have happened where they're literally just working on like, how can we navigate the minds of the people? What's that, baby? What kind of oil do you need? Oh, nice. Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yes.
I never
It was in my bag a long time ago. What oil did you put? Thank you. Nice.
This one, I'm gonna put like a...
Okay. I can help you with that later, okay? To decide which oil to put and different things like that. Because it's not for every oil. Right, where were we here? We're talking about forgiveness, neocortex, mind control. Yeah. So you start to realize like the minds are being controlled on a collective scale. Like that's what's driving trends and migrations, and whether you want to put it on a few people behind the scenes in a computer program or something like that, ultimately we can see that there is technologically advanced evolution going on. And so I know my responsibility is a spokesperson or a representative for the organic path, you know? The organic path, going from the outer to the inner, working in the synchronicity field, organic wave patterns, and also understanding like we can utilize, if we understand that everything is here for us, we can utilize things in the right way to serve the right mission. And I believe what is happening is it's like, all right, what is the mission? What is the mission? What is the mission? Everyone has maybe their personal mission, but then like, what is the planetary mission? What is the Emerald Guardian Host Founders? You know, what is the mission? To usher in the great change, to navigate human consciousness, yeah, to rewrite the fall of Atlantis. That one always comes up for me. You could call that my wound. I'm gonna delete it. I'm gonna delete the idea of a memory that there was ever a fall of Atlantis, because we came right here, right now, to re-navigate that field, so that Atlantis never fell. And this is not attachment to Atlantis or Lemuria or anything like that. It's just, it's ultimately about rerouting the digressive technology. Okay. So the thing about Gene Key 4 and the thing about Gene Keys, if you follow them at all, and I am looking for the people that have the context for the Gene Keys or interest in the Gene Keys, or also just interest in, maybe it would be theosophical types of information. Ultimately, I believe there's something here in the mysteries. You could call them Magdalena codes, you could call them Christed codes, whatever you want to call. Ultimately, connecting revelations, the idea that there's in the Bible, and the idea there's a second book, the book of life, and seeing the Gene Keys as a way to turn on your book of life, that your DNA actually has a story written within it, a script of sorts, and that there are particular codes, numbers, words that can, a communicated language that could start to speak directly to the genetic code and to start to turn on and unravel something far beyond the domesticated code, the programmed code, the OEM software, the original manufactured software that we were born into. Because ultimately, up until this point, you know, like we were born and we were born into the medical system. Typically, everyone at this point was born into the medical system, born into the vaccination system, born into the education system, born into the government system, born into the schools, possibly university, corporate systems. It's like there isn't anyone hardly that wasn't born into that system, and then all of a sudden now we're coming into a new age. And this new age is here to actually let go of a lot of that programming, to no longer maintain these old systems that were manufactured out of capitalism and control and experimentation. So we're moving more into a heart-centered co-creation. And we're not just waiting for a solar event to happen and then bloop, all of a sudden. No, like we are the solar warriors. We are the solar returns. We're coming together and we each have codes, visions, clues, pieces. And so every time we come into communion and connection, right, we start to transmit those codes. That is really the movement of this time, is to be able to bring us into coherent configurations, to feel and transmit and communicate, a lot of times beyond the words. Because we're working with cellular telepathy, we're working in morphogenetic fields. We think we're separate because we each have individual bodies, but we are not able to see the whole entire frequency field and understand that it's not separate. Yeah, so when we start to take everything from the outer to the inner and we see more on an energetic frequency level, we work at these energy waves and we start to purify and bring into coherence and harmonize. And so, okay, so we were talking a little bit about how I feel the Gene Keys is kind of the mystic Christic teaching, or the book of life after revelations. It's like the continuation of living, especially through the 7 sacred seals. I feel like that storyline, that game, you could say, that resonance could really assist someone in the next level expansion from religion to spiritual liberation. The rapture, Gene Key 30, is the purification of the lower astral body. That's one of the initiatic leaps that we're called into, as the celestial fire burns all desire, or the individual self. And now the heart is on fire and burning for something far greater. For the success of a team, for the success of a family, for the awakening of a planet, something like that. You got to have something worth fighting for. So anyways, because gene key 4 is connected to sacred seal number 5 and the Buddhic body, just gonna open it. I also connect it to what is called the Annunciation. And, you know, there are stories, if you want to look them up, you can look up like Mary, the Annunciation. But that's kind of what I like to look at, old imagery to see and to feel the messages beyond the words of an Annunciation. Oh yeah, I'm going to the 22. Hold on. Turn into the 22. Corpus Christi, the body of Christ, the rainbow light body. There are many ways to say it. That's where we're going. And I have a little sapphire here wrapped in copper. Nothing too fancy, but I had a piece. Okay, so this is my sapphire piece. Sapphire is connected to gene key 22. Yeah, I want to make this look pretty in something. Right now it's just kind of thrown together. River did it. It's very cute, isn't it? It's kind of like a magic wand. I had a piece of ruby that looked very similar in shape to this, actually. And I gave it to a friend who was going to the Chalice Well on the solstice. She didn't even know it was a solstice, but her daughter just got out of school and was planning for them to go to Glastonbury for a quick, you know, summer trip. And yeah, she was there on the big window, and I gave her this ruby, and I was like, please put this somewhere, you know, in Glastonbury. And she put it down the Chalice Well. And then she brought me back a rock from the Chalice Well. And it's interesting, like one day I marked it with like ice blue nail polish so I wouldn't forget, and I called it the Magdalena rock. And there was a time when I took her this piece of rock. It just seemed like a simple rock, but it seemed almost like it had magnetic properties, or it was communicating with my other crystal. Now, it wouldn't look like that in plain sight. You'd never even imagine or expect or think that that might be the case. It might have been this one. And so anyways, I had this rock, and it was like, I had it marked with aqua and ice blue so that I wouldn't forget, because she looked ordinary. And, but she was obviously majestic. And kind of like us, we might look ordinary, but we're majestic, you know? Anyways, I put the rock here with this Master Atlantis stone, and I was like, wow, you could feel that there was a level of movement, a level of architecture there that was not your normal. Yeah, they all communicated differently, you know? All of our crystals do. They are alive. They are technology. They're real computers. That's why I'm always working with this one here. Both of these are Andaras. The first time they came into the field, I just learned about Andaras. Eduardo made this little, look at this galactic piece, huh? One time I had a friend here. I like to work in the mushroom space sometimes, and he was taking mushrooms, and I put this, I had him lay down and I had him put this on his head. I was doing some type of energy body work or whatever. And yeah, we have some other pieces in here, like a piece of silver. And anyways, when he was done, this whole spiral indentation was on his third eye. It was super cool. I like to work in that space, you know, when people come to visit. We work sometimes with responsible use of psychedelics. We work with crystals, copper, nature. But a lot of what we're doing is putting the pieces back together of our cosmic histories, our origins, remembering who we are, coming out of the closets, communicating with each other. Yeah. Give me just 1 second. Don't let me leave the sapphire. I smell like something's burning and I want to check. Okay, babe, you might be burning something, or is maybe okay?
Yeah, okay.
I know, I was thinking that.
Oh.
Turn it off, okay. Got a little fire going on. Not exactly a fire, but okay. So anyways, okay, we were talking about sapphire, talking about rubies. Rubies and doobies. Just kidding. Anyways, I ended up losing, well, you never lose a crystal. They always just go exactly where they're supposed to go, okay? This particular crystal, the Magdalena crystal or rock, but they're all crystals. In fact, she was at one of the beaches here in Costa Rica, Galactic 0 Point. It's Uvita Beach. We've done a lot of grid work all up and down these coasts on both sides, Pacific and Atlantic, or Caribbean side, where we've worked with a lot of crystals and buried things, and we just do whatever we're called to do. Waking up with the monkeys and the sloths and the toucans. It just depends on where we are on the grid at any moment in time. That's another thing I want to open up, is for people that want to do like real galactic grid work and travel through the country and experience some of the portals and places. I mean, we are the stargates and the portals, but it's also like, oh, okay, well, this is the divine masculine portal. This is the Magdalena portal. This is the alien lake portal. This is the, and just like be able to take people through the sacred sites of Costa Rica that nobody knows about, because they're not necessarily written in stone. They're a little more invisible, but they're there. So anyways, we have this place we call the Magdalena portal. And every time we get into a specific location, we set up a crystal grid and we do whatever we do there, work with it. And a big rain came and raised the water of the ocean into like this little river. Oh my God, a dragonfly. What? Did you guys see it? It was right behind me. It's a big one too. Dragonfly stream. Yeah, dragonfly stream. Dragonfly stream. Dragonfly stream. So dragonflies, since one just popped up in here, Gene Key 55 is called the dragonfly stream. It's a prophecy going from victimization to freedom, 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 freedom. It's the freedom code 55, master number. I just posted about it on my page today, and I posted the entire Gene Key 55 prophecy in the comments so you can read it. And it talks about the coming of the new time and the different aeons and new forms of, like, what will government look like? What will science look like? What will education look like? What will community look like? Yeah, we're in the frontline phases of these spaces. And the premise of the dragonfly stream is that we're going through a mutation right now. And so before this dragonfly was flying around with its wings coming to see us on this video today, you know, it was born as a nymph under the water. And it was just an underwater dude, right? And then the next thing you know, one day this underworld dude, you know, just jumps out of the water and out of this underworld, or you could say lower astral body or lower astral plane, hops up on the rock, and, you know, the sun beams down, or a new terminology I'm using is that we swallow the sun. You know, that we embody the sun and the solar energy, and it becomes us, it shines through us as we move from the underworld to a solar consciousness, shining bright with the light. And so anyways, eventually this underwater nymph spontaneously becomes, like in a moment's time, a dragonfly. You know, it has wings, it can fly. And so that's so beautiful, and it happens in an instant. And that really is that there's a premise, there's an idea of us going through a solar plexus mutation. The idea of humanity moving beyond being an emotional being. I don't mean when I say that you're becoming a cyborg and heartless. It's just that we're moving into more of the bliss realms, the heartgasm, heart open. We're directly connected with the source and the spirit. There's not a definite deficit in the energy field. We're not running out of energy. It's more of an eternal life field, an eternal life code. You know, and you're feeling it from the purity of your heart. And so we're not fighting, you know, we're not reacting. We're not holding shit in. There's no pent up anger or energy. We're doing the work. We're doing the work as it comes to us. We can digest anything. We are transmuters of energy. As soon as something comes to us, we have the ability, we have the consciousness to be we have the permission to be an alchemist. You know, we could use, alchemy has been used in many different dimensional realms and is seen in many ways, but the real alchemist is when you alchemize that ego. The real alchemist is when you alchemize your emotions. The real alchemist is the one that can see and move into humility to alchemize anything. You know, that's the quintessence, that's the fifth element. Everything you touch turns to gold. That's the 23 in the Gene Keys, by the way, which unlocks the 43, which is the fourth sacred seal of the causal body. Yeah, I can't wait for the day that people want to learn more about the 7 seals and go through the actual steps of the process. I mean, it all happens organically on our own time, but I really am starting to see and sense the idea of, you know, waves of souls that are called to really go through these initiations, and really feel and unlock the process of the seals in the physical presence. Yeah, I'm calling in the team and the tribe to help me with such a task like that, to bring in the beauty of the Gene Keys and the 7 sacred seals, and assisting in unlocking the DNA and healing the wounds. You know, healing the core wounds of humanity. That's a vision I have. Whether it's here or anywhere. And now that I'm opening up the doors in my game to not just like sit still and be like, I'm right here, right now, that is how I live. But also like I've noticed I've been in the game I was playing, it was like, I'm here to hold this field of the future in the now. I'm leaving behind all the systems. I'm not participating. We're holding the sovereign field in the future, kind of thing. And it's like, okay, you can do that and you can still get on an airplane. You can do that and still use a phone, like you can be in the world and not of it. I think I got so far away from it. Yeah, I'm just returning. And I'm getting more excited about the idea, like, oh, it would be so good to travel around to the United States and go to sacred sites and meet soul family and, turn on this DNA. Open up portals. Turn on the soul memory. Gather the tribes. Bring the ceremony of life to everyone that we meet. Break up that mundane. Yeah, have some soul retrieval. Cosmic memory. Like, I was thinking that tons of people would be coming to Costa Rica ready to save the day, so to speak, council meetings and stuff like that, but it's like, okay, maybe it's not here. Maybe it's traveling around in many places. Let's see what happens. But I know it's not so easy for people to get here all the time. There's money involved and all of that. And I do have dreams and visions of having something that's fully funded that anybody could come to. But in the meantime, the idea of going to other countries, going to the United States, going to Australia, going to Ireland, these places that I've talked with people on the phone. And it's like, I don't want to give up on this planet and just think that we're just supposed to like scooch around and go hide in the forest and live on the land. I've already been doing that. It's a little primitive for my advanced nature. I want to win the game of preserving planet Earth. And that might mean becoming more of an active participant in the actual physical field. So I'm just contemplating all of that. But what I want to do is I want to read you what's called the opening of the fifth seal. And it's just a short paragraph in Gene Key 22, the Siddhi of Forgiveness. And the wound of this seal, of sacred seal number 5, the core wound of this seal is the wound of guilt. And it's about healing the wound of guilt. And it has the power of ending war and the healing of all races, which I've always determined the idea of healing of all races. I don't think of it so much like, black, white, this or that. I think of races as galactic races. And so for me, that might look like galactic races on this planet that have been responsible for the wars that are going on right now. And they might just look like human beings on the earth plane, but there's more of a galactic intelligence operating through them at a certain level of frequency in the multidimensional field that is perpetuating war versus peace and preservation. Peace and preservation. Gene key 6 and 32, which equals 38. Warrior of light, Venus, veneration. Okay. So this particular Andara is connected to the fifth seal or the throat chakra. I'm going to put it on my throat. If you have a crystal or anything that you want to, or just use your hands to put on your throat, you can work with this seal of the fifth seal as we work on activating this planetary grid of forgiveness. Okay. The fifth seal is open through the fourth Siddhi of Forgiveness. As one of the great involving cities of grace, forgiveness has a special purpose: to work its way backwards into the collective DNA of humanity, releasing the many karmic blocks that plague the various gene pools. The fifth seal is specifically targeted to heal the patterns of unconscious guilt upon which karma is built. Guilt is a kind of karmic debt which exists between one person and another, or even between one race and another. As the power of forgiveness works its way into the human genome, so many ancestral curses will finally be lifted. This seal in particular has the capacity to create world peace, as individuals and whole nations forgive others the debts they are owed. The grace that comes with forgiveness has unprecedented power and brings a sense of true justice back to humanity. Forgiveness is a direct manifestation of the fifth body, the Buddhic body, which has the capacity to literally burn karma out of our DNA. At a collective level, the releasing of all this world karma will bring an end to war. So that's the power of this seal. And to me, it's already unlocked, open, available, accessible. We're activating it for the planet. We imagine that there are many that will be invited to walk through the initiations of turning on the Buddhic body. And ultimately, this seal is about creating world peace and bringing an end to war, the healing between races, and it's about cleaning up the unconscious guilt and this karmic debt. It's literally, the Buddhic body is about burning karma out of the DNA. Right, so then we're moving from karma to dharma, which is the real mission that we came here for. And the karma keeps us from the dharma, from living our highest purpose. As we repeat these loops over and over again, we go back into the karmic loops versus the dharmic, which is your way out. In your gene keys, in your specific chart, there's a pathway to dharma. It has to do with your purpose and attraction sphere. And yeah, mine is like the rapture, purification of the lower astral body, and ecstasy. And I can definitely see how that's a part of my pathway to Dharma and what I'm here to bring to humanity. We all have different roles, different purposes. We're mainly doing it from the inside, but eventually we come together to do it on the outside. And that's what's really fun, is we start uniting the tribes and having fun doing it and bringing ourselves into true healing and celebration is when we're remembering the divine mission. Yeah, that's unstoppable for sure. So that's the 5th seal about ending all war. Each seal has a different purpose. Gene Key 4 is about ending poverty. Sacred Seal 4 is about ending world poverty. Sacred Seal 1 is about ending disease, eradicating disease on the planet. It's a storyline, it's a prophecy, it's a script that's here to rewrite the code. And we're all a part of it in our own ways. So I thank you all for being on the mission, for doing the work, for holding the field, for being on the path of purification. I was just on a call with my friend yesterday, Robert, and I was talking about, this pathway of purification and purity, pure. Purification and purity, pure heart. Really inviting in those pure intentions, the pure agenda, the pure heart. The pure heart is the real ticket and the real gateway to divine will. Pure hearts of service. And I always say, remain humble, pure, and true for the divine will to flow through. And that's always the invitation. Remaining humble, pure, and true to allow the divine will to flow through. Now, the other thing that I wanted to read you has to do with the 5th initiation. It's called the Annunciation. And that was the point of this call, is about forgiveness and Annunciation. And so I might read you a little bit of the particular Gene Key 4 as well. But for sure, I wanted to read you about the unlocking of the 5th seal. And if all are in agreement that we're activating that seal for all of the planets, ending war, bringing peace to the earth, healing with all races, manifesting the Buddhic body, planetary rainbow body, planetary Buddhic body, and the purification and the cleaning of all ancestral trauma in the DNA. All right, so here's what we're going to do with activating the Holy Mother frequencies, the Sacred Trinity, the Buddhic body, the 5th initiation, the Annunciation. The 5th initiation flows naturally from the 4th, which is the matrimony. These are actually kind of based off something that I would say was stolen from the Catholic Church, It wasn't theirs first. There's the 9 portals of planetary initiation. The first portal is birth, second portal, baptism, third portal, confirmation, fourth portal, matrimony, fifth portal, Annunciation, sixth is communion. And then there's ordination, sanctification, and glorification. These are the processes of initiation. This is planetary initiations. And so what we're activating, and many individuals will have to still go through their first, second, third, fourth initiations, but the 5th initiation, we're just kind of making that statement that it's right here, right now, for all of the planet. and available to the individual, but also on a planetary level as well. So the fifth initiation flows naturally from the fourth, and at this level of expanded awareness, the initiation often follows each other relatively quick succession that is within a single lifetime. Now that you are married to your higher consciousness, the next thing that happens is that you become pregnant. This is the Annunciation, the mystical announcement of the imminent birth of the Christ. Much of the symbolism surrounding this fifth initiation is feminine in origin, flowing as it does from the third aspect of the Sacred Trinity, the Holy Mother. See, now we understand that the Trinity has to do with the Father, the Mother, and the Child. The Holy Mother, the Holy Father, the Holy Child. Not just the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Holy Mother, the Holy Father, the Holy Child. Sacred Trinity. The return of the Mother. The return of the Mother brings balance and justice, and the guardian, and the protector, and the dragon mother. Okay, so the fifth initiation is feminine in origin, flowing as it does from the third aspect of the Sacred Trinity, the Holy Mother. On the lower planes, the feminine is expressed through the astral plane, the desire nature, and the emotions. At a higher level, this plane relates to the fifth or Buddhic body. I have these beautiful flowers in my book. So many old pressed flowers and different things in all my pages. It's falling apart. Okay. At the fifth initiation, the exquisite emanations and refined currents from the Buddhic body begin to penetrate the lower astral nature. This is a deeply tantric phenomenon in which you experience the sublimation of your sexuality into pure spiritual essence. The Annunciation is a chemical phenomenon that saturates your whole being, just as a woman during pregnancy is flooded with hormones. So you become aware that your body is being purified and cleansed in preparation for a great inner event, the birth of Christ consciousness. That's what we're talking about right now, birthing the Christ and the birth of Christ consciousness. That's the fifth planetary initiation. This is also connected to Gene Key 19, the sacrifice. And it's the future human being, the ones that come with the sensitivity for the new time and are willing to sacrifice the lower self and the lower sexual nature in order to serve this orgasmic mission. So, the birth of Christ consciousness. In the analogy of the church, this initiation relates to the situation of the choir, who preside over the altar and who represent the voice of pure worship of the Godhead. The connection between the throat center and the sexual center also becomes clearer during this initiation. So we're cleaning the connection between the throat center and the sexual center. Now, this will have to do with the sound of your voice. This will have to do with, if you've seen the pictures like of the diagrams of the idea of inside the yoni and how basically it's like a throat. Like it's just, if you were to fold down the bodies and your throat would go over the sexual center, right? They're mirroring each other. You could say one is the lower and one is the higher. the higher body, the Buddhic body. So you're certainly no longer controlled by the lower nature sexual desire. You know, that's a disciplinary process, and it takes time. And not to be confused with the ones that are being taken over by the tech right now that have zero sexual desire, or that either their sexual desire is being utilized to funnel and create kind of machine programming, or it's addicted to pornography. What we're doing is we're purifying the essence of our life force energy, or what people call sexual energy, which is really eternal life force energy, Christic energy. And we're making sure that it's flowing all in, all out, all throughout, up and down and all around. So we're talking about the connection between the throat center and the sexual center becoming clear during this initiation. You can't force this initiation either. It's just something that some people come to when they're ready. But to know that it's available and to know that it exists, well, that's the first step in the initiation, is to consider the idea of if you're on that path. When a person spontaneously enters a higher ecstatic state that appears to be ongoing, it is a fair assumption that they are entering the fifth portal of the Annunciation. Many different mystical traditions speak of this magical time of higher pregnancy in which the immortal fetus is gestating inside our solar plexus center. It is one of the great enduring mysteries of creation. In terms of the initiation of species, humanity stands at the threshold of the fifth initiation today. So we're at that threshold. Even now, there are whispers in the air of new form waiting to come into the world. Little do we realize that this form is gestating inside our very DNA. The timeline for a species to undergo any initiation is obviously very different from an individual, and for humanity it may take many hundreds of years for the Annunciation to become realized. We are about to enter a time of great purification, in which the feminine spirit of grace will be working actively in the world. That's where we're at right now. The great purification and the feminine spirit of grace working actively in the world. The fact is that as a species, we've already been fertilized and are in the very first stages of pregnancy. Just as the body of a woman takes several weeks and months to register the changes externally, humanity will not become generally aware of the great change that is upon it for some considerable time. Only those who are sensitive to the subtler currents moving beneath the world of matter will detect the first signs of the new human that has now begun its period of gestation. So that's the fifth initiation, which is available to us when we move through gate number 5, sacred seal number 5, gene key number 4. So we're connecting the Buddhic body and the fifth planetary initiation. Yeah, and then the next step after that is the sixth initiation, which is called the communion. It's connected to gene key 45. I'm always talking about it. It's the code that's here to end world poverty. It's moving from the shadow of dominance to the gift of synergy. And that's what I'm waiting for, to gather the stars, for the teams to come together, for us to start to synergize and work as teams with our gifts to serve this planetary mission. So all is coming into formation. Right now it's about the purification process. There are many other levels leading up to this fifth initiation. Being on the path of doing your own shadow work and owning your emotional states and doing that transmutation work. That's just in general being a kind human. Doing that work, being the leader, holding the space, holding the field. It's not so much about having to teach it to anyone. It's just about holding and embodying it. But, you know, in gate number 4, according to the I Ching card, it talks about the idea of someone asking for help when they need the guidance. I'm going to read you the 6th initiation as well. It's called the communion. The 6th initiation is the greatest experience a human being can have. It represents the zenith of our human development and the end of our evolution on the earth. The mystery of Holy Communion is the mystery of sacrifice. This is the full awakening of the Christ consciousness in a human vehicle, which requires the death of that which identifies with the principle of form itself. Oh, okay, that sounds like a great idea. This stage is often referred to as enlightenment. The light referred to is the pure light of the 6th body, the Atmic body, which is born from within the Buddhic body and enlightens the lower 3 bodies. As it does so, it causes your causal body to dissolve, thus severing the link or bridge between the lower and the higher worlds. In mystical terms, this involves the dissolution of the soul, that aspect of human consciousness that is drawn again and again into incarnation. Thus, it is said that at the point of enlightenment, the indwelling awareness can no longer take incarnation and forever escapes the wheel of samsara, or illusion. Escaping the wheel of samsara. It's interesting because that portal where my Magdalena rock went, I call it the Magdalena portal, where the water rose and kind of took my crystals away. It was, in order to get to that beach, you have to drive and turn past this hotel called Samsara. So I think that's crazy, escaping the wheel of samsara. The initiation of communion also shares its name with the 45th Siddhi, which describes the great mystery of the taking of the sacred sacrament. The communion involves the direct imbibing of divine consciousness at the altar. In entering this field of frequency, you are transcending all sense of being separate from others. This is symbolized by the blood of Christ and marks the final breaking up of the karmic residues held in your DNA. For the grace of Christ to enter you, you must be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, to give up your lower bodies and their desires, feelings, memories, dreams, and knowledge to be taken over by the greater being who's been waiting all along within you. To enter this great initiation is to die into the second aspect of the sacred Trinity, the Christ. So the other initiation's the second piece of the Trinity, which is the Holy Mother. And then the 6th would be, you could say, the Holy Father, but the Christ. And I wrote embodiment of the Christos mission. Oh. Get out of here. Just had a little pop-up going on. Okay.
That was
Yeah, so that's where I like to connect Gene Key 19 and 45, 1945 to the Nag Hammadi text. I really like to weave in all of these writings as like modern day Nag Hammadi texts, Gospel of Mary, Dead Sea Scrolls, like hidden in plain sight. You know, we were just watching a little video about some caves and some carvings and some languages, and there's still like somebody wrote like $1 million prize for whoever can translate these cave, you know, whatever writings using AI and all of that. And it's like, what do we need to do there? We have it all right here, hidden in plain sight. We've got the right terminology for the modern day tools, to modern day language. I believe in symbols and codes and the power of it, but really it's like, what is going to light the fire now? What are the principles? What are the processes? And I believe there's just a lot around what the gene keys are here to do for the rapture, the biological apocalypse, the purification process, the embodiment of the Christos signatures, the return of the mother frequencies. Yeah, it's all written here. It's ready for us. And the sacred sacrament, you know, in the communion, I mean, of course, I think of sometimes medicines are used as sacraments. You know, there are holy events to take place in those fields at time. And that's what I like to do. That's when I work in a medicine field, it's a holy communion, truly. It's a holy event. And it's beyond the idea of healing. It's something, the healing is that you're remembering the mission, the Christos mission, the embodiment. It's a revelation. And I always say, maybe we don't have to have a medicine for that, right? But I also say, you know, there's many stories and histories that kind of weave in the idea of mushrooms or show the idea of like psychedelic references to different Christian pictures and things like that. So there's always this mystery around like, what did they use? Did they use psychedelics? You know, I know there's books out there about like kind of the Christian or the Christos energies with mushrooms and psychedelics and the possibility of it. So I don't know. I think so. I mean, I know so. All right, so what I'm going to do now, so I wanted to read you that, the fifth Annunciation, unlocking the fifth seal, healing of the wound of guilt. And then I'm popping into Gene Key 4, which is about forgiveness. Social revolution, that's what I wrote. Social revolution, neocortex, the resolution of karmic debt. Understanding and feeling of knowing that floods your whole body and radiates from the solar plexus area beyond the mind and logic. It's also called a universal panacea, which I had to look up that word. I didn't know what it was. And the definition is a solution or remedy for all difficulties or diseases. So we refer to the four as the solution and remedy for all difficulties and diseases. I mean, okay, let's do it. Tangled up in human emotions, misuse of your logic, a feeling or a knowing, the understanding, the gift of understanding is a feeling or knowing that floods your body and radiates from your solar plexus. Rupture the connection between the past and the future. Let me see. Yeah, it's interesting. This is connected to the neocortex. let's just open it up and start reading some of it. Gene Key 4. The folly of youth, the fourth shadow of intolerance, connected to the amino acid of valine. When the ancient Chinese named this fourth hexagram of the I Ching, they gave it the wonderful name youthful folly. And in doing so, they showed a profound understanding of its lower nature. The fourth shadow, the shadow of intolerance, is rooted in the mind's habit of becoming tangled up with human emotions. Intolerance is best understood through its relationship to its programming partner, the 49th shadow of reaction. Because human beings are governed by their emotions, the general emotional state of humanity is unstable and chaotic. We tend to react to our whims instead of attuning to the quiet, clear guidance that lies within each of us. In reacting to our own and others' emotions, we decide that what we feel must be the truth, and our mind agrees with us. So sometimes our mind can talk us into or justify us going through our repeated emotional cycles that aren't actually bringing us liberation. The fourth shadow is essentially a misuse of one of the great gifts of the human mind, logic. The power of this fourth gene key is the power to read and solve logical patterns. And as we shall see in the case of the fourth gift, this ability leads you to a universal understanding of the rhythmic patterns and tendencies of all life. However, at a low frequency based on emotional reaction or overreaction, this shadow uses the power of distorted logic to support and uphold its volatile nature. In other words, if the fourth shadow has a bad day and decides it doesn't like someone, it will find a whole list of logical reasons to support its dislike. This is what intolerance really is, a slanted perspective of logic. At the shadow frequency, the mind is actually given the authority to make important life decisions. And this is often disastrous because its true role is not to decide anything. Its true role is to understand and communicate. The aptness of the name youthful folly becomes apparent when you see what happens as this shadow reaches an extreme and emotional state. At the shadow frequency, you identify absolutely with your emotional state, which defines the way you live your life. Any unresolved emotional pattern is taken up by your mind and built into a highly intricate logical framework that masquerades as the absolute truth. Through the medium of the fourth shadow, opinions, judgments, and resentments are transmuted into convictions and certainties. Yeah, so this is the shadow, right? Where we take our opinion, judgment, and resentment and we make it the truth, make it a certain truth, and it just messes everything up. In this way, people blind themselves with their own logic and become deluded and sometimes dangerous. Intolerance is based on a subjective distortion of logic, which only measures those patterns that a person wants to see, rather than seeing all patterns from both sides of an argument. The power of the fourth gift of understanding is founded upon this ability to objectively assess all aspects of a viewpoint, thus avoiding the pitfall of taking sides. The human logical mind is actually not designed to take sides. The essence of logic is the foundation upon objectivity. But in the hands of fear, objectivity dies and logic becomes subjective, even at a collective level. You may wonder how something can be both collective and subjective. Racism and prejudice are examples of genetic or ancestral fears that manifest through certain population groups who then reinforce these fears through subjective, logical argumentation. Even science is rarely truly objective unless it remains open to all counter-arguments. In the case of science, a counter-argument might come from religion, which challenges logic as the only means of acquiring truth. And that sure is a crime. Yeah, I moved beyond the logical plane a long time ago. That logical plane and that rational is so stubborn. It leaves no room for mystery. It leaves no room for the mystery, for other possibilities, for the creative force, for the majestic force, for the mystical force to come through. The fourth shadow forms a very subtle undercurrent to all human mental structures, from the scientific to the spiritual. It cannot help taking sides. The underlying nature of all the shadow states is fear. In the case of the fourth shadow, fear is projected onto others and then reinforced through taking a defensive and sometimes offensive mental position. This is how intolerance is created, and it is sometimes extremely subtle. Intolerance bases its position on opinion rather than fact. If you took the time to examine the other side of the argument, you would immediately understand that your opinion is rooted in a deep-seated emotional fear of something. The great problem with logic is that it can only disprove itself, which does not make human beings feel at all secure. Therefore, most people choose one single side of an argument because it makes them feel a certain mental solidity. Ironically, however, mental assuredness cannot make the body feel safe. The body can only feel safe when it surrenders to the moment without wanting something else. The fourth shadow is endlessly restless in its need to examine patterns and resolve questions. One answer is simply replaced by another question. The role of this gene key is to understand, but understanding cannot come through the mind itself. This is the essence of the fourth shadow's dilemma, and it keeps many people from realizing its gift. Understanding, as we shall see, only comes when you realize that your mind can never truly understand anything. Before you come to this huge inner realization, you will live your life under the influence of the fourth shadow and its persistent promise that it will one day arrive at an answer that brings you lasting peace. This is youthful folly because only after much anguish and experience do you come to realize that there are no intellectual answers that bring about such peace. There are only two options for the fourth shadow. You either settle for a one-sided opinion and deny the other side, or you become lost in the fruitless quest to bring an end to the feeling of uncertainty that lies deep within you. Unless you make the leap into the true understanding of the fourth gift, you have no choice but to be caught in eternal misunderstanding and intolerance. So in the repressive nature of Gene Key 4, it's apathetic. When the mental dynamism of this fourth gene key is frozen by the unconscious fear of a repressive nature, the result is an apathetic mind. An apathetic mind is a collapsed mind that is no longer bright or intelligent, but has given up on understanding anything and sunk into a kind of mental lethargy. These people believe themselves to be less intelligent than others, when in fact they are really paralyzed by an unconscious fear. Their fear is that they will have to assume responsibility for themselves, their decisions, and their actions. Instead, they choose to have no opinions about anything. Such people can pretend to be quite enlightened and very open, but there is a vital energy lacking inside them. Thus, they can have problems in motivation as well as with their health. To escape their apathy, they simply have to start thinking again, but without letting their thinking rule their lives. Yeah, and that's really how you start to measure life, right? It's about that vital energy, and I say that too, like, if you're going to let anybody give you opinions about your life, make sure they're vibrating at a level of vital energy, of vitality. Are they exuding an energy that feels influential to me? Am I taking advice from someone that's modeling an energetic field of what feels right for me? Because sometimes people can have all these words to say, but it's about the living and the feeling. It's not about what is said, it's about how it feels. And so I really look for that energetic vibrancy, that vitality, that life force as an indication for me I'm on the right path or not. Reactive nature is nitpicking. In the reactive nature, thinking does rule a person's life. The reactive nature projects out its external need for answers to questions, and it does so in the belief that these answers will bring them a sense of security. When they discover that this is not so, they become angry and blame someone, often the person or system that they supposed would give them all the answers. These people cannot let go of their need for some feeling of resolution, so they make their mind the authority for bringing about this feeling, only to be endlessly disappointed. These people hone in on the most irrelevant details, unconsciously looking for a vent for their frustration. When they find such a detail, it affords them the opportunity to criticize or complain, and thus release some of their pent-up anger and tension. These people, above all, need to find a way to let go of the hope that their mind can ever bring them solace. When they do this, they can finally stop projecting their eternal disappointment onto others and begin to find a new awareness rising in them outside of their mind. So that's gene key 4 at the shadow level, which is the shadow of intolerance. And so, where are you attached to your judgments and your opinions and utilizing them to make concrete, limited perceptions of reality that are keeping you from seeing the bigger picture and keeping your mind open? Yeah, and trying to justify these mental frameworks over and over again. You can try to make sense out of anything with your mind and justify this or that, but it's not about any situational, this person did this person said this, I feel this because they did that. It's all about if the energy is trapped in your body or not. If you're repeating mental loops or not. You can free yourself at any given moment in the blink of an eye. Okay, so the 4th gift is understanding. Quantum cones. And it's cones like Koans. If you are someone with powerful intellectual capacities, the 4th gift represents a wonderful breath of fresh air for you. At the same time, it requires a huge quantum leap in your whole being. The gift of understanding has nothing whatsoever to do with knowledge. Knowledge is what your mind thinks it needs in order to take away its permanent feeling of unease. But knowledge can never bring a sense of peacefulness. At most, it can give you the hope of that peace. Although ironically, it is this very hope that sustains your intellectual quest and keeps you within the confines of the shadow frequency. Only true understanding can bring peace along with it, because true understanding lies outside the domain of the mind. Understanding is of the whole being, and it does not and cannot require agreement from the cognitive capacities within your brain. If you allow the fourth gene key to run its natural course without giving it the responsibility to make decisions, it actually does something quite magical. It propels your awareness out of the mind. The very desperation of the mind to come to understanding through knowledge constantly thwarts itself by looking at life from every conceivable angle. At a certain point, all this pent-up energy explodes into a quantum leap out of the mind. This is precisely how the concept of the Zen cone operates. A cone is a paradox given to the mind to solve, and at the precise moment when the mind has finally realized that its own logic can never solve the cone, understanding dawns. This quantum leap is true understanding, which is a feeling of knowing that floods your whole body and radiates from the solar plexus area. The gift of understanding is the only answer that will satisfy a person's dissatisfaction, and it must come about through the exhaustion of your mind rather than any other way. When you look logically at all angles of any concept, you begin to realize that nothing can ultimately be proved through logic, because logic can always be used to prove the opposite. When you finally see this, your whole being lightens, because you realize once and for all that the mind is of no use for resolving anything of real importance. This in turn releases the mind to do what it loves best: research and communicate and play. When the fourth gift is freed from having to solve your existence, it finally comes into its real genius: to play with the patterns of existence and arrange them in a new and original way. When you have the feeling of visceral understanding deep in your belly, your mind is no longer hampered by the need to defend your own viewpoint. In fact, you realize that all logical formulae can be manipulated to prove or disprove anything. The higher frequency of such understanding also brings with it the urge to be of service to the world, and you can use the mental alacrity of the fourth gift to follow the dictates of your higher self. This newfound genius at seeing the underlying patterns of life also affords you direct access into another aspect of this fourth gift. Bye. Baby, bye. Oh, have so much fun. This newfound genius at seeing the underlying patterns of life also affords you direct access into another aspect of this fourth gift: the ability to understand people. Through seeing all sides of any mental construct, the gift of understanding sweeps aside the possibility of intolerance and uses its gifts to create new roles or systems to bring positive change into the world. bringing positive change into the world, creating new roles and systems. See, that's where you start to catch that the gene keys is writing the code. You can start to see like character markers in certain people that carry these codes that have gifts. For example, this one says, using its gifts to create new roles or systems to bring positive change into the world. The programming partner of the fourth gift is the 49th gift of revolution. And this energy always accompanies true understanding. The very nature of understanding is to bring about improvement for society in general, since the dynamic energy within this fourth gift is still experienced as a certain restlessness. Whereas the shadow level, this was the restlessness to resolve your own insecurity. At the gift frequency, this becomes the restlessness to resolve the insecurity within society in general. Wow, that's so damn good. So when you're done resolving your own insecurities, then we can solve the insecurities of the society. Right? And that's what happens when we have whole healed humans coming together in the field. And when there's no insecurity there, there's no competition, there's no jealousy, there's no comparison. There's just deep honor and reverence for each other. And seeing the equality in that, seeing the power in that. So that's a really good key. Resolve your own insecurity. Then we can resolve the insecurity within the society in general. Thus, understanding always carries within it the seed intention to solve the problems of intolerance and division in the world. In the coming genetic shift, triggered through the 55th gene key and the 49th gene key, the role of this fourth key will undergo some very important genetic changes, which will gradually sweep through humanity. The involution of powerful Siddhic energy from the highest aspect of this archetype will bring about a minor but extremely important genetic mutation in this fourth gene key and its associated amino acid valine. This mutation will essentially phase out the fourth shadow of intolerance. The children that come into the world carrying this new sequence of mutations will not be emotionally polarized. Their mental system will not run riot throughout their lives. The fourth gift of understanding will govern the way in which their minds operate from birth. They will bring about a social revolution on a global level. And this revolution will be based upon a logical understanding of the folly of the existing systems and structures. New formulae will come into the world through this fourth gift that will undoubtedly lead to technological breakthroughs that solve long-standing problems rather than create new ones. And then I've got a piece of this cedar. Is this cedar? Or pine? No, it's like a interesting, like, because it's not like my other one. Where did I get this one from? It's like a form of a pine, I believe. It's just sitting in my book over here. I'm tempted to want to burn some of it, but then I also want to keep it. Okay, so now the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the Siddhic frequency of gate 4, gene key 4, which is merciless forgiveness. It should take me just the next 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm going to get some hot tea really quick. Okay, so Let's read this one. Merciless forgiveness. That's what I love about all these keys, though, how they're literally talking about making society level changes, global changes, planetary impact. Like, I remember one time I was at this big event with my old work. I was in Dallas, Texas. We were at the Dallas Cowboy Stadium. And we went to lunch at my favorite Mexican restaurant, one of them. And I don't know, I just saw this was many years ago. I saw the saying, like, those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world will. And I don't know why that was so empowering and encouraging for me, because there are times where, like, you can literally feel like you were born to change the world. And then there's like all of that naysayer shit out there that'll kind of like try to talk you out of it, you know? But it's true. Those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world will. And I believe that to be true. So deep. Oh, hola, my special sister with the same birthday as me. If you're still here, nice to see you. We're activating the Buddhic body for the planet, activating peace on the earth, ending all war, healing the wound of guilt, moving beyond individual insecurities so that we can address societal insecurities. And it is the Annunciation. That's what we're bringing in, the Annunciation. So we're going to close out with just reading the Siddhic frequency, which is the divine essence, the embodiment of the divine, with the fourth Siddhi of Forgiveness. Merciless forgiveness. Not only will the coming shift bring about a social revolution, but it will also bring an end to one of the great searches of modern man, the search for knowledge. Through the rupturing of the fourth shadow, understanding will take place of knowledge, and much of the thrust of our modern world will die down. We will no longer need to logically make sense of the paradoxes of existence, because our new center of awareness will give us a physical and energetic understanding of existence. Thus, the role of logic in our world will alter. It will no longer be used to defend our prejudice and fear, and it will no longer be used for purely personal benefit. Logic at its highest frequency is a means to orchestrate the most efficient society possible. True efficiency is based upon a higher, holistic understanding of living systems. Once our understanding shows us how connected we all are to each other, we will see for ourselves that selfishness is the most inefficient frequency of all. Ooh, that's a good one. Selfishness is the most inefficient frequency of all. Amen to that. To give is to receive. Giving and receiving are the same thing. That is how you shift from the law of one, service to self, to service to others. There's just no room for selfishness in the future mission. Anything with selfishness at the center is going to fall. So we might as well, from the beginning, build it from the center of the creation of service to all. And it's also bringing up Gene Key 27, which is from the shadow of selfishness to selflessness to altruism. And it really is about taking care of the tribe, you know, really coming into the resonance of the tribe, of the family, of the all, moving beyond the selfish nature of the self. Okay, the fourth gift forms the launch pad for an even more refined frequency, the Siddhi of Forgiveness. Forgiveness is born out of understanding, but it occurs when a being makes a leap beyond understanding. Forgiveness is a stage further on from social revolution. Just because a person has understanding and good intention does not mean that they can orchestrate a perfect society. History has shown that revolutions never change the world. They just change society, and usually only briefly. The highest possibility of the 49th gene key is the Siddhi of rebirth, and this is the Siddhi that always awakens alongside forgiveness. As we have seen, understanding leads to the urge to serve the totality through instigating some kind of social reform. Forgiveness, however, is a pure Siddhic state, and as such, it has no sense of restlessness at all. All Siddhic states are the end of the line. They represent the absolute transcendence of our genetics and the end of being human. Forgiveness is the thunderbolt that is released when a being attains Christ consciousness. It is like a kind of cosmic warmth that melts the borders and boundaries within the world of form. Forgiveness allows the truth behind all form to be seen. Further than that, it allows one to see through and thus become one with truth. There exists a great mystery about the power of forgiveness concerning time. Forgiveness represents an involving force rather than an evolving force, because it literally comes from the future towards the past. It is a divine quality that descends like Christ into the world of form. In descending into human form, forgiveness lays its hand upon all humanity and works its way back through time, burrowing into our collective past, releasing and freeing energy that has lain trapped and stagnant for aeons, releasing and freeing energy that has been trapped. Forgiveness moves down the ancestral bloodlines of all humanity in this way, dissolving genetic blocks and lifting karmic curses wherever it travels. This is why the Siddhi of Forgiveness is often credited with being capable of inducing miracles, because it can release a karmic debt that has stagnated for generations. As such debts are released, those in whom they live can move through incredible transmutations. These mysteries are explored in more depth in the 22nd gene key through a transmission known as the 7 seals. That's the thing that I'm always loving to talk about, those 7 seals. Right? That is here for us to move through incredible transmutations. The 7 seals are the mysteries that allow us to break through all karma. The 4th Siddhi is a primary agent of divine grace. That is to say, it does not adhere to human laws. It concerns the resolution of old debts at all levels. At a purely individual level, the whole process of human incarnation is based around the notion of karmic debt. Until you have paid off all your debts, particularly through your relationships, you cannot escape the game of incarnation and reincarnation. Until you have paid off all your debts, particularly through your relationships, you cannot escape the game of incarnation and reincarnation. Interesting. Because it is also a part of the Ring of Union, the 4th Siddhi's ultimate role is to bring humanity into a collective union through the resolution of karmic debt, individually, racially, and mythically. In the material realm, we will see this manifesting one day through nations forgiving each other their financial debts. Talk about ending of all war. Nations forgiving each other their financial debts. That's what we're talking about. Forgiveness is, as such, is really a collective phenomenon, which is why we humans have never been able to control it or fake it. It falls upon you like a surprise, and something inside you opens up that was previously choked. It really is a miracle. As more beings bring this Siddhi into the world, they play their part in the releasing of humanity's collective karma. Such beings hold on to nothing in life because they have moved beyond understanding into pure truth. The forgiveness that we know of now is but a tiny shadow in comparison to the beyondness of this fourth city. Pure forgiveness is a universal panacea that radiates in every direction throughout time and space. It is the final answer to end all questions. And when the first atoms of forgiveness finally travel back to the very beginning of time, as they already have, the world we know will begin to dissolve. When all is forgiven, then forgiveness itself no longer exists, only truth. The final destiny of the fourth city is to rupture the connection between the past and the future, between the black and the white, between the yin and the yang, to finally bring an end to the logical fabric of space-time itself. True forgiveness is merciless because it returns everything to its source, and it is a force of pure annihilation. The ultimate goal of forgiveness is, in fact, to bring an end to the world of form itself. Oof. Bring an end to the world of form. Oof. Yeah, what are we holding into the form? What are we keeping real that's no longer real? I like this one song, Please Lead Me from the Unreal to the Real, from the darkness to the light. So we're all on this path right now. We're all doing the mission. Thank you for your service. I'm going to close this one down. Inviting you all, if you're feeling called to do a call with me, reach out. Let's do it. I do everything by cosmic donation. It's my honor to serve in this way. And it's the way that we live. So let's keep it going. If you don't want to do a session, but you feel open to contribute in any way with a donation, it's greatly appreciated. And yeah, let's just hold the field of this annunciation, of this planetary initiation, of the purification of world karma, of activating the rainbow body for the planet Earth. And I'll plan on being back on Monday, 8:44 Costa Rica time, 10:44 Eastern time. I'm just giving you a last little shot of my Atlantis master. We got some sapphire. And there are 17, 22. And the quartz is number 1. All right, much love you all. Have a beautiful Friday. And oh yeah, tomorrow will be the Galactic News piece that Marcus has been putting out. I'll be on there talking about making homemade coconut milk. And yeah, what do we do with this eclipse energy, you know, and walking into our new role, walking into our new world, walking into our new dimension, walking into our new life. So until the next time, till the next episode,